Welcome to the Herd Mentality Podcast, an eclectic weekly mix of atheistic and humanistic conversations with complete strangers. I've never met them and they've never met me, but we're throwing caution to the wind, taking a risk with a dodgy internet connection, and God willing, get an interesting conversation for you to listen to. I'm your host, Adam Reeks, and it's time to meet our guests. Welcome to the Herd Mentality Podcast, Serious Edition. Today I have with me another godless heathen who goes by the Twitter handle @OneGodlessWoman, who's a member of ASH, so ISIS ex-Saudi woman. Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well now. I've recovered from my man flu for the most part. So thank you very much for coming on the show. I was given your contact details by a gentleman who goes by the name Harry on Twitter, and I had a very quick look at your bio and I thought, wow, that's a pretty amazing story. So I thought perhaps it's a good idea to give you some airtime so you can talk about it and let other people know that they're not alone or how you dealt with it.
Thank you very much.
I'll just read it, and I'm going to read it word for word, so those who don't have access to Twitter at the moment. You're a sexual assault survivor, victimized by Islam, Saudi oppression. The trial is soon, and you're wanting to share your story.
Yeah.
So, firstly, before we get to that, tell me about ASH and how you got involved with that.
I came across ASH on Twitter, actually, and I just joined them yesterday, pretty much.
Oh, wow.
Literally. I think I'm like one of their newest members, but I started to see these logos on people's profiles, and it was ASH, and they were mostly superheroes, and I thought it was really neat and different. They seemed like very, lighthearted, intellectual, and I questioned. Like everyone I came across was an atheist, and I just questioned. I just threw a question out on Twitter: what is this ASH logo that I keep seeing? And I got an answer. So I got in contact with the Wonder Bee, I think her name is, Wonder Bee, and told her that I'm interested. I explained my story. I've been quietly helping, sort of oppressed women. I'm an ex-Muslim myself. I think I would be an asset to your group. And sure enough, I got my ASH
They're a pretty
logo.
big community now, I think.
They have someone from pretty much all over the world. It's amazing. But my understanding is I'm not 100% sure of this, but I think I'm their first ex-Muslim sort of Arab person.
Wow.
Not 100% sure, but I think so.
All right. Well, no, I think a couple of the ASH people listen to this show, so perhaps they can put you in touch with anybody else who might be in the same position as you.
Yeah.
They're a bit of a controversial group. Look, I think it's an interesting concept, being able to brand yourself in a certain way, and I think it's a good community spirit.
Yes.
So, all right, down to the crux of it. How long have you been, because you're in Canada now, I can tell by how crappy your internet connection is.
Okay.
I've interviewed people from Canada before, and it hasn't
I know, it sucks.
So tell me, how did you get out of the Saudi region and over to the free world?
My story is not your typical I escaped Saudi oppression story. I had a very, very bad, miserable, oppressed life in Saudi. And then I also was studying medicine. So I'm actually a doctor, and I went into anesthesia, and I very quickly became, if you may say, known or visible, because I was involved in a very important surgical procedure, and I was the only female Saudi anesthetist. So the king acknowledged me, and I got to come here to Canada. So I came here, and in my 4th year of training, in specialty training, the assault happened. And the person who assaulted me was another Saudi training with me in the same field. So that pretty much led to...
That's odd, because somebody in your field, you'd consider them to be very well educated.
Yeah, people, my husband says this a lot to me. He says the only way out of the oppression and this religious craziness is education, but it's actually not where I come from anyway. The majority of physicians where I come from are extremely religious people. Not only that, but they are people who trained in North America, in Australia, in Britain, in you name it. So they're Western educated, but the mentality stays the same.
Has this guy been brought to justice?
It's been a very complicated sort of case, because when the assault happened, I was here on a worker's permit. I wasn't here as a Canadian. I was still Saudi. I was still governed by the Saudi rules and law for the most part. My salary was being paid to me by the Saudis. So I actually delayed going ahead and reporting it. This delay was frowned upon by the hospital here, and they pretty much more or less told me that I was lying, and they don't understand why I refused to go to the police and to the Saudi embassy and tell them. Mind you, the day I did, the first thing that happened was I was terminated, and he wasn't.
Wow. Yeah, it seems that the women seem to cop the rough end of the stick in terms of persecution when it comes to rape crimes such as this. And it's not an uncommon occurrence to read in the papers that somebody has, usually an expat, is over in the Middle East somewhere, and they're a rape victim, and they do report it, and then all of a sudden it's victim blaming.
Well, because they want so many witnesses and this, that, and the other, and it's almost impossible to prove something like this in court unless 100 people saw it.
But this took place in Canada.
It did, and this is this is the question that I'm being constantly faced with: is why did the police not, proceed and do something about this? But this is where it even becomes worse, because when I was terminated from my position, I had to find something else to do with my life to pay the bill. So I went back to school, and I trusted that the police were looking after this. But they weren't. My case was dropped. And I eventually got a lovely 5-page letter after I filed an open complaint against the police department, because they closed my case and they told me, "Oh, we're sorry. There were too many cases going on. We had the person in some person in a higher position was, I don't know, they left, so there was a shift, and just a bunch of other excuses, and we're sorry. Yes, we dropped your case."
As simple as that.
Yeah, it was that simple for them. Yes. And there's nothing you can do about it, because this is it.
So the assault took place 10 years ago?
Yes.
And did you go back to Saudi Arabia after that?
No.
So you've stayed in Canada ever since?
Yep.
Your husband is also
Canadian.
a Saudi? Or he's
No.
Canadian?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And the attacker?
Saudi. He went back to Saudi, and then he re-entered Canada this year. At this point, my case had already been so embedded in the system that the Interpol found out, and I guess he was red flagged when he applied for a visa to re-enter Canada. Mm-hmm. And at that point, the police contacted me and asked me if I wanted him arrested. And they did arrest him. I said yes. He entered Canada. He was arrested. But of course, he was let go. Again, because no charges were ever brought against him. So now we have a court date now.
And how far away is that?
It's in the new year.
What sort of support are you getting from the people around you?
Not much. Except the people on Twitter. I have to say, these guys are awesome. Family has disowned me because I don't know if you know much about our culture and our tradition, but you have disgraced the family name, you have brought shame, so I am not...
Well, it's all you're doing.
Yes,
it's all you're doing. You were asking for it, weren't you?
Well, yeah. I mean,
no,
that's...
What a ridiculous concept, but that's how their laws are based.
It is.
And that's how the tradition is based.
It is.
The entire atheist community just abhors this sort of treatment, and as more and more reporting becomes available, I mean, I won't say fortunate, but it did take place in Canada.
It did.
What would have happened if this had taken place in Saudi Arabia?
I don't even want to... oh my God. I can't even tell you how many... And I use the phrase God, by the way. Just something... We're so used to saying this. But anyhow, this happens constantly. I personally had friends during med school and in school that were assaulted. There was incest. And the women can never speak. It's that simple. The women cannot speak. You just take it and you live it and it's your life and that's it. Period. It's just the way it is.
What a horrible situation.
Well,
and those who do choose to speak up risk going to prison themselves, do they not?
Well, of course. I mean, part of my, I don't know if you looked at my site or anyway, part of what I've posted on my story or my blog is what actually happened to me in Saudi. And I forget about the abuse that I was getting from my family. Women can't drive in Saudi. There was a situation where I was post-call at the hospital and I waited for 3 hours for my driver to come pick me up and he never did. The guy that was on call with me, he was a colleague. He saw me standing and he asked me to come with him. He would drop me off to my house and I did. I took the ride. I was in the car with him and we were literally kidnapped in broad daylight by religious police. And they framed us of basically that they found us in an apartment naked and that we were having sex. And I got no trial. Nothing. And as soon as I got jail, I was in jail for like 3 months. And when I came out, the courts called my dad and they told him she needs to come in for her 80 lashes that were sentenced. And nobody knew. I didn't even know that my case was going to court. I knew nothing. This is the kind of country you're talking about here. There's just this. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't really know what to say.
It's very backwards. It's horrid.
Yeah, it's just scary. It really is. And
I've looked on your Twitter profile. You've started an Indiegogo campaign.
I have, yes.
And for those interested, you can check out your Twitter profile, which is @OneGodlessWoman. And there's a link down the bottom there to Indiegogo. But if you don't have Twitter, you can just go straight to xsaudi, so that's just the letter X, saudi.blogspot.ca, and have a read of your story there in your own words. And you've got it both in Arabic and in English.
Yeah.
And you're seeking to raise $5,000.
Yes, I am.
And this is to fund your court?
Pretty much. I've been told I don't need a lawyer. The Crown is representing me, but I'm a massage therapist, and I don't know how massage therapy works in other countries, but here you are paid per client. You're not on salary. So if I don't, the amount of time I have to take off of work can literally bankrupt me because I'm not getting anything. I have to take this time, travel, because the court is about an hour away from me. I have children. I have bills. I have to work. I have no family to support me. This amount of time, which is probably close to a week and a half, can literally bankrupt me. So I sat and I thought to myself, do I not go to court and just let this be? Or what are my other, options? So I came across this and I thought, you know what? I'll just put my story out there. If somebody wants to help, that'll be beautiful and awesome, and I'll be very thankful. But if nobody wants to help, then that's fine. I'll figure it out somehow.
Look, I know about between 1,000 and 2,000 people download this podcast. You've got 20 days left. If every one of those people were to donate a single dollar, that'd be a wonderful contribution towards it, because you're already at $3,800 out of your $5,000 goal. So, and there's a lot of people who have been very generous, I think.
There has been. They've been amazing. I am speechless.
Where are the people coming from? Where are they coming? They're coming out of the woodwork to help. Do you know where they're coming from?
Honestly, I can tell you that 99% of the people that donated are people that connected with me and my story on Twitter. Some of these people don't even know they have never even heard my voice, but they connected and they felt so strong about what's happened that it's been amazing. And I don't even know how to ever thank these people, I
think their thanks will just be seeing justice done. Everybody would love to see justice done.
I know.
But people have a different perception of justice. I mean, you've obviously got a Western perception of justice. You do the wrong thing, then you get taken to court, you get imprisoned for whatever.
Yeah.
But Saudi justice is completely the other way around. It's just abhorrent.
I wouldn't even call it justice. I would just call it Sharia law, which is their version of some sort of religion-based law. I would not put justice in there. I do not think justice is ever done in countries like the country that I come from. I'm sorry. I know this is probably going to upset a lot of people, but
not at all, because you can speak firsthand.
I can.
And I think, you're doing a wonderful job of getting it out. I mean, I've only known you for, less than an hour, having first made contact, but I think you're doing a wonderful thing, and you're remaining remarkably upbeat and chipper about this.
There's two ways to do this. You can, and I've been criticized by a lot of people. How dare you rub the fact that you're atheist, on us and ask for money? I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? They're like, take it out. Don't tell us this part. I basically told them, I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for help. It is if you want to donate, that'll be awesome. And I'm very thankful. But for me to lie to you about who I am so I can get your sympathy and empathy and money, that is basically a scam. And I don't understand why people are asking me to do this. If and then you can beg and cry and it can be a sob story. Or you can just state the facts, and that's what I'm doing.
Well, it's a very atheist way of doing things. How did you come to be an atheist? Were you always in doubt, or was there a point in your life where you thought, no, this just doesn't seem right?
I honestly, and I know people probably won't believe this, but I want to say I have been a closet atheist for the majority of my life. The only reason I never spoke out about it back home is because the punishment for apostasy is they kill you. They behead you. So I was quiet and I pretended to do what everyone else wanted me to do. But in my heart, I never believed in anything. The extreme form of religion that was pushed upon me led me to atheism, basically.
And your family remains to this day devout?
I want to say yes, they do.
Do you have any contact with your family?
I have not spoken to any of them in probably 10 years when the assault happened.
So wow. It's a wonderful case of how religion really divides families. You say
yes,
blood's thicker than water, but in this instance...
I want to say something. Well, it's not even religion. You're not talking about religion anymore. This is a very strange form of tradition. It's a morbid tradition that is just, people call it religion, but I don't think it's... Yeah, I don't think it's religion.
Would they have these beliefs without the religion, though?
They seem
quite irrational.
They're very irrational, and they keep referring to these old books and these prophet sayings, but I mean, I feel like they have twisted everything. I am a non-believer of any of this. I don't believe there's a prophet. I don't believe there ever was a prophet or an Allah. I don't know who wrote these books. I keep saying somebody that was high wrote these books. But they like to refer to these books, but then they take them to these extra levels of extremism. If you refer to the Quran, nowhere does it say that a woman can't drive a car. It does not say that anywhere in the Quran.
They couldn't predict cars?
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Camels. I don't know.
I thought Allah knew everything. Well, can you drive a camel?
I think women are allowed to ride a bicycle, but a male escort has to be present. I think that's the latest I heard from Saudi. She can ride a bicycle.
Well, keep us posted on that.
I will.
Because it's an evolving culture. They're forward thinking. Do you see any hope for Saudi?
No. There's no hope. You know why?
Pray tell.
Because Saudi is such a powerful country. It has so much oil. Between oil production and oil reserves, nobody will ever look at the continuous human rights violations that happen in Saudi and challenge them. No one. Because Saudi controls oil. But that's another topic.
You mentioned, because I spoke to you briefly just before call, that you remember very little about the attack itself. What do you remember?
Yes, I remember that it was planned. He did say that to me. He actually, after he assaulted me, and on my escape, on my way out of the cottage, because it happened in a cottage, it was a department held event at a ski marathon here in Halifax. So we rented 2 cottages out, and once it was all over, he actually said to me that he planned it. He planned that he basically stalked the cottage or whatever he wanted. He kept watch until all the other guys were out skiing, and I don't ski. And he knew that I was going to be there because my car was there. He blocked my car. He came in. He locked the door. I basically met him halfway across I was, of course, having a bath. Perfect timing. And I only had a towel around me. I remember that much. I remember him seeing my Arabic tattoo on my back and him reading out loud and kissing it. I remember specific things. I remember threatening him with the flat iron that I had in my hand. I remember him rubbing against me. I just remember almost like flashes. It's hard to describe.
Well, people in these cases just lock up.
Well, it's funny, and it wasn't even when I went to the police. It's not like the movies show you. You're not screaming and scratching, and it was not like that. I wasn't a participant. I can tell you that much. I probably said no a million times, but it just stuns you. It puts you in this very strange state where you're trying to figure out what the next step is going to be and how you're going to get out of here. So screaming and yelling wasn't in there. I remember that much.
And were you injured at all?
The injuries that I sustained were different from... There were no fractures or anything like that. But it was...
you don't have to go into this, that's fine.
It sounds weird, but it's tissue memory is what I want to say, or muscle memory. And I don't think you have to be sort of a body worker to understand what I'm saying, like a massage therapist or an osteopath. I suffer a lot with chronic pain, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, like phantom pain?
No, it's just chronic pain from the assault itself. It's tissue memory, sort of like how your brain remembers stuff. Your muscle remembers it too. You know what I mean? Anyhow.
So post the event, what sort of therapy did you seek out, if any?
It was very minimal because I didn't report it, but I did go see a psychiatrist. Now I can tell you it was very strange that the psychiatrist kept asking me if I wanted. This was very strange. Yeah, they kept asking me if I wanted this, if I was interested in him, But other than that, really, there was nothing.
Hang on, interested in the psychiatrist or the rapist?
The rape, the assault. If I was interested in the guy, if I had led him on, this was frequently asked.
It really boils down to victim blaming, doesn't it? I'm surprised a health professional, a mental health professional, would ask a question like that. What a disgrace!
She did, and to the point that I stopped going and I refused to go anymore because I was in shock. I felt like the entire world was blaming me, and at some point you give up because there's no way to prove to anybody because it's a he said, she said. And sadly, in these scenarios, I don't know why, but the criminals seem to win.
That's horrible. It is horrible, but I hope he doesn't. And I would encourage everybody to jump on the website and donate $1.
Thank you.
Donate $1, because if everyone who listens to this donates $1, you'll get there.
I will.
And that will certainly help pay for your expenses while the court case takes place, because like you say, it's not a short event. This is drawn out.
It has been, yes.
We'd really like to see some justice done. So when the court case is set for next year?
Early January.
At that point, keep in touch on Twitter, because everything I do basically in terms of contacting people comes through Twitter.
Okay.
Any updates you have as they come across my feed, I'll give them a retweet, and I suggest anybody else who comes across them as well to give you as much exposure as we can.
Thank you.
And after the event, I'd love to have you on again.
Thank you.
Look, it's my pleasure. It's the least I could do, I think. And hopefully this sort of thing brings more attention on a global level. I mean, I've got a very small audience by comparison, but the national and the international papers report consistently on the human rights mistreatments that people experience in Saudi Arabia itself. But it's not confined there by any means. This is a global issue.
It is.
So how are your family holding up?
They're good.
Excellent. Tell me about your kids.
They're nuts. I have 2 boys. One is
dear.
6. I know. They're my life. And if there's anything I want to add, it is that before I had my boys, I wanted my life to end. I saw no hope. And after I had them, they saved me. That's the best way that I can. I owe everything to them.
Well,
I do.
That's beautiful. Well, it sounds like you've got a good support team of backup dancers there. Very well. Look, I thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best, as I'm sure everybody who's listening to this does as well. And I'll give out the details once more. Your Twitter handle is @OneGolden Godless Woman, so that's the number 1, Godless Woman, and the Indiegogo fundraising page can be found at the letter X, Saudi, as one word, .blogspot.ca. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, sir.